Welcome to Studio One on this Thursday, September 29th, live from our studio on the campus of the University of North Dakota. I'm Tom Beering. It's good having you with us today. Up ahead in this half hour, we'll talk to founding president of the Innovation Development Institute, Ann Eskesen. We'll also discuss today's launch of Discovery with aerospace expert and chairman of space studies at the Center for Aerospace Sciences, Dr. David Webb. And on our Open Door segment, we'll share a laugh or two or three with the Smothers brothers. But first, let's go to the news desk with Marilyn Vetter. Marilyn?
Thank you, Tom. The Space Shuttle Discovery finally got off the ground this morning. The shuttle was delayed because winds were too light and its computers were programmed for stronger winds. The shuttle was scheduled to lift off about at 9 o'clock this morning our time. It actually got off the ground about 20 minutes to 11. There were some tense moments just before the launch and then again about a minute after liftoff as the shuttle passed a point at which Challenger exploded about 2.5 years ago. NASA has spent $2.5 billion making Discovery a safer spacecraft. UND students can't ride in the space shuttle, but they don't have to miss the thrill of a launch. The newly opened atmospherium at Cass allows students to experience a simulated shuttle launch. Its graphics generator, called Digistar, throws images of planets and stars onto a 40-foot dome. The Digistar computer is the fifth of its kind in the world, and UND is the first university to have one. The atmospherium opened to the public this month. Its show is called The First Light, runs 4 times each Sunday. Cost is $3 for adults and $2 for children. Tomorrow marks the end of UND's second annual Safer Sex Week, but this year's activities brought no great outcry from the public. As Laura McCullum reports, students were more concerned about getting the facts.
Safer Sex Week is quietly coming to a close. Without last year's controversy over handing out free condoms, many UND students were unaware the week had even started. And organizers say the change brought the real issues into the open.
I think with the controversy last year, it really intimidated a lot of people from going to maybe possibly the panels or panel discussions. And this year we also brought the panel discussions down into the main floor of the ballroom.
The panel discussions were frank, with some insight into the risky lifestyles of college students.
I think they're more worried about getting sex, not age.
Attendance at the discussions was nothing to brag about, but panelists didn't consider that a sign of apathy.
The small number that were here, but they were interested. If we can make an impact that way, I think I'll consider that a success.
Some students weren't as positive about the week's activities.
Now they're switching to the moral issue, and everyone gets sick and tired of all the moral issues because we're made out to be the bad guys, the people that are clean and do everything right.
I think this goes beyond moral judgments because you have to educate people.
Laura McCullum, Studio One News, Grand Forks.
Safer Sex Week continues through tomorrow. The 1988 Summer/Fall Olympics comes to a close this weekend, and the Americans are closing strongly. This morning, Florence Griffith Joyner broke the world record twice in winning the 200-meter dash, and in basketball, the disappointed men's team won the bronze medal over Australia, while the women brought home the gold over Yugoslavia. The U.S. also has 6 boxers in the gold medal round of the Olympic tournament. That's today's news, Tom.
Go USA. Thanks, Marilyn. The Center for Aerospace Sciences is hosting an international art exhibit entitled Conscious Evolution, The World at One, created by artist Angela Mano. The works will be displayed in the Heritage Room at the Center, continuing from now until December 18th. Also next Monday and Tuesday evening, October 3rd and 4th, guest lecturer and author Josh McDowell will be at the Chester Fritz Auditorium. Both evenings will begin at 8 o'clock with Monday's address entitled A Skeptic's Quest. The events are sponsored by Campus Crusade and InterVarsity Fellowship. With the recent beginnings of fall, let's see what kind of weather is in store for us from our very, very own meteorologist, Jay Searles. Jay?
Thank you, Tom. After a cloudy start this morning, we've cleared out and skies are beginning to look pretty nice for the weekend. In the almanac, we had a high yesterday of 52 degrees, a low this morning of 48 degrees, and 0.02 of an inch of rain in the last 24 hours. Currently at 4 in the Grand Forks area under partly cloudy skies, the temperature is 55 degrees, the relative humidity is 76%, and the winds are calm. Taking a look across the map this afternoon, a large area of high pressure is beginning to move in from the Pacific and will be dominating our weather for the weekend. Across much of the southwest, temperatures are already in the 70s and 80s this afternoon. But in the central U.S., a large and very vigorous storm system has developed, spreading some moisture up from the Gulf of Mexico. And in this warm, moist air, strong thunderstorms are beginning to break out, where there is a potential for some very severe weather from southern Texas all the way up through parts of Missouri and southern Iowa. We can also expect some very welcome rains to the parched farm regions of much of the plain states. As the system begins to move away, we can expect our clouds to be clearing out. That's what it looks like across the United States today. I'll be back a little bit later in the program with the Red River Valley Weekend Outlook. Tom?
Okay, Jay, thank you. The Hughes Fine Arts Center is exhibiting the works of artist Florence Baker Wood. The exhibit featuring examples of metalworks is entitled Hats and will be on display until October 7th. Also, the UND Film Society will be presenting movie Crazy tomorrow night at 7:30 in Merrifield Hall, room 300. When we return, we'll talk to the president of the Innovation Development Institute, Ann Eskesen.
And that this free society speaks with power, force, and decision. In this crusade,
the political machine that put these people into office is still run by the same person. You. Democracy. It can't be of the people and for the people if it's not by the people. Vote.
Children with cystic fibrosis want to grow up. More than half of them are now living into their 20s, but that's not long enough. It attacks a child's lungs, and there is no cure, so far. But today, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation is supporting the research that can soon end this disease. The money you give goes immediately to help find a cure. Give a child a chance to grow up. Accept the challenge and support the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation.
Our first guest has played a major role in the National Small Business United organization and is the founding president of the Innovation Development Institute. Ann Eskesen is also managing editor of the nationally distributed newsletter Innovation and is the main speaker for UND's Center for Innovation and Business Development Conference being held today in the Memorial Union here at UND. Studio One welcomes Ann Eskesen. Ann, it's a pleasure meeting you and having you on today.
Thank you. It's
Now,
a pleasure to be here.
The subject of the conference today is how to apply and win small, innovative research grants up to $500,000. Does that stagger some people that trickle in wondering what they can do for their business?
Yes, you do have the type of individual coming in who is a small-scale inventor, and the prospect of a substantial amount of money is something that clearly is very exciting to them. But most of the companies who are SBIR awardees, that's the name of the program, are rather sophisticated companies. They're not usually the inventors. And in the arena of sophisticated technical research, $500,000 is not very much money.
Characteristics of a business to qualify, what would they be?
Well, the definition is clearly defined that the company has to be organized for profit. And my comment is that's usually a desired rather than an achieved condition, but the fact is they are supposed to be a for-profit organization. A university professor, for example, would not be eligible. They have to have less than 500 employees, and they have to have a principal investigator, someone who is going to do the work, who is employed by that company for more than 50% of their time.
And the key is in the writing.
The key is in the design of the project and the clear understanding of what the agencies, this is a federal program in which there are 11 participating agencies, what the agencies are looking for, so that to the extent the companies can make the match between what they can do and what the agencies are buying, they're right on target to receive a very substantial amount of money.
And is there a science to writing for these grants?
Oh, there's no question. There is a real, I wouldn't call it a science because that's too precise. There's an art. And the art is absolutely knowing who is your customer. It's a lot like marketing in any arena. You've really got to want to know, find out what that man is buying and make sure that what you're selling him fits all his specifications.
Now, when you assist some of these qualifying businesses, what kind of success ratio are you seeing?
I have to correct you on that one. I don't assist the individual companies. We made a decision a long time ago that we didn't want our service only to be available to those who could afford to pay for it. So my assistance is usually rendered by my being a guest, as I am here today, at the guest of the university or of the state. I have working currently in 38 states in that capacity. We also publish the newsletter that most people who are involved in this program use as their point of reference, and we work with companies as they call in on an access basis. Their subscription to the newsletter gives them a right to talk to me whenever they can catch me in my office to answer their questions. In ordinary terms, you can say that a quality company which is good at what it does, very good at what it does, and understands how the program works will hit about 1 application in 3. So the rates of award are really very high for a program of this type.
And what got you interested in this?
Well, I come from a background of technology transfer and technology development and have been with small businesses for many, many years. And we determined that there was a serious shortfall in the availability of product development money for small firms that were technically sophisticated. It used to be that they could get that from the federal government, but they can't do that anymore, or they couldn't do that anymore. So we worked on the passage of a piece of legislation, and that created this program. And the legislation requires all the agencies which have a large extramural research budget, they buy research outside their own surroundings, to allocate a percentage of that money to a program for which only small firms were eligible to compete. And that's 1.25% of that budget, and it translates to about $500 million a year. There are currently 3,000 companies nationally who have been in receipt of those awards. I'm here in North Dakota because very few of those companies are from North Dakota.
And we've got to move you on to a conference. Anne, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time.
It was a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Founder and president of the Innovation Development Institute, Anne Eskesen. When we return, we'll get an inside look into the funny world of brothers Tom and Dick Smothers.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
If there aren't enough people learning these skills, where will we get people to learn technical skills? Jobs will demand more education, better reading ability, and greater technical skills.
What does illiteracy mean in practical terms? It means many North Dakotans cannot read a newspaper, the announcements in a store window, or the menu in a restaurant. Help the North Dakota Literacy Coalition reach an illiterate. In North Dakota, call toll-free 1-800-544-8898.
It has been 29 years since America first laughed with the Smothers Brothers. Years that have taken them from San Francisco's Purple Onion in 1959 to the main rooms in Vegas, Atlantic City, and Lake Tahoe. In the process, there have been 10 albums, 3 of them gold, and 3 network television series. There was even a brief retirement of the act for 4 years before returning to stage with their ever-popular sibling rivalry. Today on our Open Door segment, a look at the Smothers Brothers.
We began as musicians. Not one of us was not a musician.
I was a musician,
and I'm still not a musician.
Still trying. But we were really trying to be musical, and we were a vocal group, and that's what we did primarily. When in high school, we sang in choirs, and we had a quartet, and we had trios and stuff like that, and that's where it started.
What is the key ingredient? What made it work in the '60s and continues to make it work up until today?
The laugh, the comedy.
Sincerity, I think. You did the speech and what you do today.
Well, what it is you can spend time on stage, and anytime you can get on stage and you can keep someone's attention. You don't have to be funny. If you can keep their attention, if you have no valid reason for keeping their attention except having that ability to keep their attention, then you can create some tension, and then you release and you get laughter. And I was always awkward, and people felt real kind of embarrassed for me. And I got great laughter all the time from the time I could speak. From the time I was in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, I knew I had some kind of a thing that people would laugh at. I didn't define it until later on in life.
It's a special quality to hold one's attention. You know, everybody out there, when there's people in your class, you know, when they stand up, you look at them. They could have nothing to say, but you're still there like a dog wagging your tail waiting for him to say something. Then when he says something, he doesn't have to say anything. And you think that's just terrific. And there's people like that, and most of the comics have that quality.
Now, I said take it 3 times. You ignored me. Why would I thank you for that?
I didn't hear you say take it.
Oh, come on, Tom. I said take it, you know. Darn
if I'd heard you say take it, I would have taken it.
I don't think you would have. You're standing up here. You can hear me now.
If I could live my life over again for a simple
come on, Tom. You don't have to live your life over again.
I just didn't hear you say take it.
People did not come here to hear us argue.
Some of them did.
When you split up in the 70s for a little while, you both parted ways and both got into theater. Was that fulfilling or was that frustrating?
It was 2 things. It was very fulfilling and it was very frustrating.
And very frightening.
Yes, it was.
You went out there as a star, as the draw, and at the same time we're trying to learn your craft with professionals in supporting roles who could eat you up. They were so good. And so that was the frightening part, trying not to fail and look too bad while learning. But it was exhilarating because it brought us to Broadway in about 2.5 years.
And also we learned a whole lot of techniques, acting techniques that we never even knew we didn't know. And we came back.
Yeah, we never knew we didn't know these
we
things.
didn't even know we didn't know them. And when we got back and did our act together, there was a whole lot. The act has grown so much. We're a classic form of comedy team that very few people are doing nowadays.
It sound like you said.
What do you think you thought it sounded like?
Sound like you said naked. Or bacon, naked bacon. It sound like you're saying naked bacon.
Oh boy, that clears it all up, doesn't it? Makes a lot of sense. I'm going to walk out here, start singing Stop, turn to my brother, and then I'm going to say naked bacon. Yeah.
Didn't make any sense to me either, so I just ignored it. I don't even know what naked bacon is, and if I did, I wouldn't do it.
Wait a minute. How could you ignore it? I never said naked bacon. How could you ignore something I never said?
Took a lot of imagination.
Took a lot of concentration.
I only heard you say take it once.
You heard me say it once? Which time?
Third time.
How did you know it was the third time if you didn't hear the first two?
I counted backwards for the last.
Backwards.
You know what our secret was?
Fear.
No. Unique.
Unique, that's right. Keep forgetting
And that's all it is. It's just a great little trick. It's a cheap trick. We didn't know it at the time. It's like the Wright brothers made a... They're always remembering it wasn't a very good plane, but it was unique.
It flew. It was the first one that flew.
And Dickie and I had kind of a unique relationship, and it was different. And that's kind of what
That's
it was.
important. You know, when was it Julie Budd came along, he said, boy, she sounds just like Streisand. Well, you don't make a hit sounding like anybody else or doing anybody else. So if anybody's out there thinking of comedy or whatever, look at their uniqueness. Find your uniqueness more than how you're like somebody famous. How are you not like?
But isn't that hard today? With everybody doing everything, isn't it hard? Isn't it hard to find uniqueness?
I don't. Well, it's always difficult to be unique. There was only one Wright brother. But the point is to look for it and not to change your routine to be like someone else because that was successful. Young rock groups are always copying each other, and they're kind of clones. And comedy has a tendency to clone itself. And if you are genuinely funny and you have a sense of timing, which is what comedy is about, always tend towards the different. Don't tend towards the other side.
You may need to do that copying or cloning initially in your career, and a lot of musical groups followed the Kingston Trio, then took their left or right. A lot of them copied a little bit of the Everly Brothers and went their other directions. But unless you are really good and much better than the one you're imitating, you better take a left. Robin Williams, you could tell right away, he's the son of Jonathan Winters.
Very impressed by Jonathan Winters, yes.
Showbiz-wise, you see him. We went to a concert with Robin. We watched Jonathan Winters in San Francisco, and there's Robin up there. You know, but
so
Robin,
he used that little bit of.
He used it to get it going, but he's phenomenal. That man's he's unique. He could do 3 one-hour shows in a row, everyone different, and he's never thought of them before.
Now, in your routine, is the conflict genuine, or do you get along off stage?
Well, we've worked it out, but we really do disagree about a lot of things. Just
I don't think so. I don't think we don't disagree about
a lot of things.
No,
we
don't.
Well, generally
he knows it's not true. He's just doing that to be well liked.
No, the point is that when you're a comedy team, you are two individuals, and whether it be Rowan and Martin or Evan Costello, there was always a definite friction. And if you work that friction, you don't even have to think about attitudes. You have to make up conflicts. We got it.
Now, wouldn't it be great if the two identical twins, and they were identical persons?
I can't imagine identical twins being a comedy
Nobody would laugh at them, but they kept agreeing with each other, and one did a stupid thing, the other do a stupider thing. Yeah. Yes, this is an honest relationship, and that's one of the first things, not worst, that we learned.
What was the worst things we ever experienced when we started out, and then it became
sincere. Someone said, I think it was Lou Gottlieb of the Limelighters, he said, you've got to be honest on stage. The audience will know it if you're not. And actually, I'm disagreeable with most everybody off stage. I play no favorites.
He's the authoritarian figure.
I'm not either.
Tommy and Dick Smothers have been busy revitalizing their act by gaining visibility as spokesmen for Magnavox. the National Lung Association, and not so long ago, a new weekend television series. We'll talk to Professor Dr. David Webb from the Center for Aerospace Sciences when Studio One continues. Live theater. Grand Forks has it. Since 1947, Greater Grand Forks Community Theater has entertained the region and spotlighted local talent. Now based in a historic downtown fire hall, the group produces several plays a year, offering musicals, dramas, comedies, classics, and children's theater. Season tickets are now on sale. Call 746-0847 for more information. Welcome back to Studio One. Our next guest is a member of the National Commission on Space and was mandated by Congress and appointed by President Reagan to prepare a bold visionary space agenda for the United States. Dr. David Webb is chairman and professor of space studies at UND and has established the first international conference on hypersonic flight that was held here last week. We welcome again to Studio One Dr. David Webb. David, it is always a privilege to have you on.
It's good to be here, Tom. It's always a great thing to be on this show.
Thank you. You'd mentioned to us earlier in the week that you would be surprised to see a shuttle launch on Thursday. Is there a need to be concerned?
No, I don't think so much concerned. It was just that we have been so long in getting into space, and we kept on testing and testing and more testing, and there was still more that could have been done, and I was really quite concerned that NASA was going on testing and testing forever. So I'm just glad it was finally launched. It did come at the end quite more quickly than some people had thought.
People will now assume that we're back on track, and that should do wonders for NASA's confidence, for our confidence in the program. Is there anything more important to the program at this place in time than just that confidence?
Well, I think it's very important to have confidence, obviously, Tom. I think it's equally important, however, that the people understand that being back on track is not where we're at. We have fallen behind so badly in the past 2.5, 3 years that we've been down, that to get back on track is going to cost a tremendous amount of effort and a tremendous amount of money, just in a simple catch-up, let alone getting back to where we were sort of 10 years ago.
James Fletcher, the NASA administrator, said that the only place that we've lost our positions as leaders is in manned space and only to the Soviets. You differ with that?
Only is a very big word. The only place we've lost is in manned space. At the present time, that is where the action is. And so I think that the use of the term only is extraordinary. And certainly we've also lost in exploration, because the Soviets right now have 2 spacecraft on the way to Phobos, one of which has got some trouble. That's a very brilliant mission. We have not done one single interplanetary space exploration project since the 1970s. So I think it's not only bad, I think it's an absurd remark.
David, they were saying that there have been 600 changes to the design of the shuttle. The problems run deeper than that and beyond designing flaws. What are they, and have they been corrected?
I think that the problem is political, and the lack of will apparent in the present time in the space program, or the direction of the space policy, if you will, in this country. It appears that no government in the past 15 years has been able to grapple with the really major issues that rest in this country in how we drive technology. And our space program is expensive, and it has been always put up as in sort of opposition to social programs, instead of taking its own rightful place as an essential part of a major nation in today's world. And we, as people, have to decide whether or not we want the United States to both play a major role, or even to lead, or whatever, in the space field. If we do, we've got to give what it takes, and that most singularly we are not doing and have not done. We're now at least 15 years behind the Soviets in manned space program, and we lost that lead only 15 years ago. If we go on losing at the rate of a year for every year that goes by, we're in dead trouble.
Talking about looking forward, that's looking ahead, that's something that you are actively involved with. You chaired last week the first International Conference on Hypersonic Flight. Evaluate that for us. How did it go?
Oh, the conference was great, I think, and we were very, very fortunate in the people we got here, and they were the leaders of the programs from all over the world, and they came together here for the very first time that they'd ever talked together about what is going to be the next vehicle. after the shuttle, after the Ariane, after the Soviet Energia, and what we're looking at in going into space in a new way, which will bring it to a level everybody can afford. At the present time, we all go bankrupt for what we're doing. I mean, the shuttle costs $5,000 a pound to go 150 miles. That's an awful lot of money, and you will go bankrupt making diamonds in space right now. The hypersonic is the vehicle that is going to give us the solar system, and from that point of view, it's very exciting.
David, as always, a pleasure having you on. We
Great
appreciate
being here.
you and what's going on over there and your leadership of the program.
I enjoy very much.
Thanks you, David. Chairman of Space Studies at the Center for Aerospace Sciences, Dr. David Webb. When we return, we'll take one last look at the weekend's forecast.
When friends don't stop friends from drinking and driving. Friends die from drinking and driving. Friends die from drinking and driving can kill a friendship.
What do North Dakotans do during the winter? Hey, been to a state park lately?
Come out and play, North Dakota. Our state parks are open year-round.
Let's talk about sports. UND's volleyball team is traveling to the Northern Colorado Invitational at Greeley, Colorado this weekend. Saturday, the men's and women's cross-country teams will be at the University of Minnesota, and also the Fighting Sioux football team will be traveling to face NCC opponent St. Cloud State University. Sounds like it could be kind of quiet around here, so let's check out the weather for this weekend. Here's Jay Searles. Jay?
Thanks again, Tom. Taking a look at our forecast map for tomorrow morning, we see a little trough of low pressure. That's a wrinkle in the upper level of the atmosphere we'll be moving through. Most of the energy will be in parts of Canada. We can see some showers up there north of Winnipeg. Across our area, high pressure is going to be moving in through the day, bringing some very chilly temperatures to a start tomorrow morning across the west. Warmer temperatures down under that storm system across Iowa and parts of southwestern Minnesota. Taking a look at the forecast in detail for tonight, we will have a low of 40 degrees, winds will be out of the southwest at 5 miles per hour, and no chance for any precipitation. Tomorrow, we'll have a high of 67 degrees, winds will be out of the southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour, and again, no chance of any precipitation. Taking a look out on the limb for the extended forecast for Saturday, we can expect highs under mostly sunny skies of 65 to 70 degrees, and for Sunday, a carbon copy, another beautiful day, highs again between 65 and 70. That's what it looks like for the weekend. We'll be back a little bit later, or we'll see you later. Have a great weekend. Tom?
You too, Jay. We'd like to thank our guests, Ann Eskesen, Tom and Dick Smothers, and Dr. David Webb for joining us today. From all of us here at Studio One, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.